few years ago, Bob and I saw a story on 60 Minutes about Gorongosa National Park in Mozambique. Gorongosa had been home to one of the largest and most diverse wildlife populations on the planet. But a civil war from 1977 to 1992 had killed 1 million people and 95% of the animals in the area. Both sides slaughtered countless elephants for their tusks to fund the purchase of arms and hunted the park's mammals for food. And Mount Gorongosa had been severely deforested by slash-and-burn agriculture, and threatening the park's critical floodplain and all of the life that depended upon it. But now, a dedicated group of people was on a quest to restore the park's fragile ecosystem. They understood that restoring the park for animals meant creating economic opportunity for communities in the park's buffer zones. And they were going to do that with coffee. I'm Michelle Fish. My husband, Bob, is the co-CEO of one of the largest coffee shop chains in the United States. And together, we are the founders of One Big Island in Space. We're on a mission to change the way coffee is bought and sold around the world. We've been traveling the globe looking for millions of pounds of coffee from producers that are doing the right thing for their people, for the planet, and for their communities. When we find them, we connect them to a marketplace of buyers that will pay them the right price for their coffee, now and for years to come. It's a model that is beyond fair trade and beyond USDA organic. We call it Farm Direct. Our visits don't always work out, but we won't stop going until we can put a name, a face, and a place on every cup of coffee we serve. In July of 2023, our team embarked for Beira, Mozambique's port city on the Indian Ocean. From there, we took a small charter flight to Gorongosa Park.
How are we feeling, everybody?
Fantastic. Great.
Fantastic.
After landing, it was another bumpy 2-hour ride in the back of a Land Cruiser with Sofia Molina, a Spitfire Honduran with a long background in coffee, and Julius, the Gorongosa Coffee Park's field supervisor for the Kanda region.
Here we started only 10 years ago in a post-conflict area. So it's been a very long process just to stop cutting trees. Let's do something different.
They had approximately 1,000 smallholder farmers with an average of about an acre each, spread out in different regions of the mountain, and they were recruiting new farmers to the project all the time. They were producing about 1 container a year of exportable coffee, but they were having a hard time finding a marketplace where they could sell it. An early partnership with Nespresso had provided equipment and expertise to get their cupping lab and roasting facilities up and running, but they weren't producing much coffee.
My dream is for it to be like a bigger space,
for sure.
More employees,
Yeah.
creating local jobs and having a lot more coming out from Gorongosa and supplying the whole region would be it's my dream.
Yeah.
They were doing incredible work, building schools, hospitals, and human capacity, while also restoring the ravaged landscape. But they needed to sell their coffee at a fair price to keep it all going. Our first stop on the mountain was a school, one of 89 schools that have opened in the remote villages surrounding the park. There is, of course, a focus on the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. But they are also teaching these kids to understand how very special Gorongosa is. Their aim is to inspire the next generation of scientists, guides, agricultural technicians, and conservation workers. And they want to make sure that girls are not left behind. Girls in the area face numerous barriers to education and have lower attendance and high dropout rates. The project's answer has been the creation of more than 120 girls' clubs. For 2 hours a day after school, these young women are mentored by women working in a variety of disciplines. There was so much joy, so much laughter, and most importantly, so much hope in the faces of these children. Hope, coupled with opportunity, is a powerful combination. Deforestation of the tropical rainforest on Mount Gorongosa had reduced the humidity levels, which, in turn, affected cloud formation and reduced rainfall. That dried up the river, which threatened the habitat for hippos, alligators, and countless species of birds in the park, as well as the large mammals that graze on the floodplains and the large predators that hunt them. Reforestation on Mount Gorongosa was critical, but you had to get the surrounding communities to buy in. That's where the coffee comes in. It was intended to be an economic engine while the rainforest canopy regrew around it, reforesting Mount Gorongosa and saving the park. Mozambique is a perfect place to grow coffee. It is near the equator, between the tropics of Capricorn and Cancer, and parts have an elevation of more than 2,000 feet. But there was no coffee production in Mozambique. Why? Because it is a former colony of Portugal. And Portugal already had a colony that produced coffee, Brazil, which grows about 40% of the world's crop. And because there was no history of coffee production, there was literally no awareness of coffee. Few people drink it, and the people who lived in the buffer zones around Gorongosa Park had never even heard of it. So the team was trying to convince farmers that had slashed and burned the forest to grow subsistence crops, to replant trees, and grow a crop they'd never heard of, to maybe get paid 4 years later. That's a tough sell. But that is exactly what Sofia Molina, Julius, and the rest of the team at Gorongosa did. They showed us the original demonstration plot of 5 hectares, where the project began in 2015. It was used as both a proof of concept that coffee could grow and as a teaching opportunity for would-be coffee farmers. Today, it is under a dense canopy of trees as the native ecosystem reclaims the land.
So all of this we planted with the project, and now it's coming back to life. You can feel the freshness in the air.
Ecologically, the project has been a wild success. And over the intervening decade, the water returned to the mountain and flowed down to the park, where the animal populations have rebounded spectacularly.
There's a couple of monkeys crossing behind you.
All of this was made possible by coffee. Or, should I say, it was made possible by coffee and by courage. We met women tending their coffee cherries on the drying beds. Julius pointed out Tatianza. In 2013, as the project was busily growing coffee seedlings in the field nurseries, the ghosts of the Civil War were waking up. We met a woman today who was part of the original 3 coffee farmers in this project that started in 2013. And she literally put her life on the line multiple times for this coffee during times in which the conflict here, the Civil War here, got hot. You couldn't move around, you couldn't leave your village. She and her 2 other fellow producers would sneak out at night to go water the seedlings to keep the coffee project alive, risking their own lives. And we got to meet her. I don't think I've ever met anybody quite that brave, you know? Tatianza became one of the project's first farmers, and she remains one of their best. In the time that she's been growing coffee, she's been able to save up money to buy a motorcycle for her son's taxi business, and she has achieved a kind of financial stability that was unthinkable before coffee. Yet, many challenges remain. Logistics and banking are difficult to arrange in this remote region, and pests have had a significant impact on their yields. Fortunately, we happen to be traveling with a very well-trained coffee farmer, our partner, Juana Chapoya. He had faced all of these same issues in his coffee fields in Zambia. Julius and Juana fell down a rabbit hole of conversation, and by the time we left the fields that day, they had a plan for next year's crop. It is powerful to watch as coffee farmers share information about real solutions to complex problems. Our last day in Gorongosa, we spent at the park. Well, we don't usually engage in tourist activities on our farm direct trips, but it seemed that we would be missing the point. if we didn't see for ourselves the impact on the animals. We came within 10 feet of a sleeping lion.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight.
We saw all manner of impala, waterbuck, nyala, and greater kudu. But the most majestic moment came as the sun was setting. Every direction I looked, there were countless animals moving across the landscape, grazing and drinking in the precious water. Looking out at that field of animals, thinking about the faces of the girls in their clubs, marveling at the courage of Fatianza and her friends, it seemed to us that we might have found our next needle in the haystack. It was truly breathtaking. We could have stayed all night, but it started to rain.
The sun went down an hour ago. Torrential downpour. East Africa, Mozambique. It's pretty awesome.